I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Right. Fucking thing sucks.
And gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Oh, hell yeah. Happy weekend, everyone. If you don't know, you should know. My name is Rick Molinax, and this is Burn After Reading Live. I got to say, I am happy that StreamYard isn't acting up today. Last time I did a live, it was with Lisa O'Brien, and all hell broke loose, especially with the introduction. So I'm glad it's going well. But I figured today, today's as good as day as any. I got to live up to that name, Burn After Reading Live. I've been doing a lot of pre-recordings just because it's easier to structure, and you're not going to have those technical difficulties. So let's see who we got in the chat here. Where are y'all at? Hey, Sarah. Hello, my friend. Let me just reiterate, I am so happy we can agree to disagree, and I look forward to a lively debate. Yeah, look, I'm okay with civil discussions. Nothing wrong with that. Hello to you too. Hey, Ditch, how you doing? Yes, absolutely. Happy birthday to Mora Murray, and I'm about to talk about that in just a second. So thank you, John. John has worked on this case basically from the beginning. John's a good guy. And hello to you too, Cold. Crime Geek, she's gonna miss the live, but she will watch it, or she'll watch the replay. So awesome. Let's see. I'm here to apologize in advance. Well, I'm not going to go into anything too deep today. Just kind of, just kind of cover some things, and then there can be some free conversation. But all right. So let me start off by saying that, as Truth Seeker Investigations pointed out, today is Mora Murray's birthday. She disappeared over 21 years ago in Haverhill, New Hampshire, and has not been heard from or seen from since. Today, she's being honored and celebrated with the 4th annual Mora Murray Workout and Acts of Kindness Challenge. The workout part consists of 2 events with special significance to Mora: a 2-mile run and 82 burpees. Mora's best race was the 2-mile run, and Mora's birth year, 82, will be the number of burpees guaranteed to make you sweat. I can't even do 82 of those. I don't know if I can do 10. But look, if you're like me, we get it. Not everyone can do those kind of workouts for many different reasons. And there's another way to honor Mora, and that is the Acts of Kindness Challenge. And a Mora Murray advocate and a good friend of mine, Robert Lynch, inspired the idea. And by the way, if you haven't already, please check out my interview with him. And since I'm on this topic, I want to bring this up. I stupidly said in the beginning part of that video, I said 21 years, and I meant to say over 20 years. And the reason why is that my wires were getting crossed because it was 31 years since the murders of Christopher Byers, Stevie Moore, and my wires just got crossed. I should really pay closer attention to that. And Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers. I just wanted to make sure I said all three of their names. But anyways, let me get back on track. Anyways, Robert is that dude, he is a good dude. And so you might be asking yourself, well, the Acts of Kindness Challenge, what does that mean? Well, it can mean anything involving kindness. Let's say if you're at the drive-thru and if you got the money to do it and you're ahead of someone, buy their meal for them. Hold the door open for someone. Hell, if a kid has a lemonade stand and their price is $1 for a cup of lemonade, give them $5. Donate to the charity in need. If it involves kindness, it counts, and you don't have to make it public. Just do it because it's right, and of course, do it, to honor Mora. See what else we got here. You should cover the Amanda Jones case, though it's kind of over. It's not. Court's doing her family dirty. It's not okay. Yeah, and I don't know anything about it, but I'll do my best to look into it. I'll tell you, as I know Cold Truth can attest to, both sides of the Delphi case, it gets pretty nasty, and I see the same thing happening with the Karen Reed case, and I'm fine with wherever you stand at of innocence or guilt, but something that's kind of sad is someone who I admired and looked up to, Roberta Glass. She got pretty pissy with me on X, formerly known as Twitter, because I mentioned that, and because she didn't like it, she told me to basically because I said both sides were being nasty, and because I wasn't just advocating for her side, which is the guilt side of it, which she, that's fine, and she's most likely right. But she got pretty pissy with me and told me to grow a pair, and I bluntly told her, you don't got to talk to me that way. And the kind of pair that she showed that she had, she decided to block me. And look, I don't get into this thing whether if blocking is right or wrong, or because someone is right or wrong because of whoever blocks or whatever. It's just don't sit there and tell me to grow a pair, and because I tell you don't talk to me that way, you block me. The blocking isn't a whole thing of right or wrong. If people are trolls or they're spamming or doing whatever, yeah, you should block them if you want to. If you don't want to do that, then don't do it. But it's very disappointing. Yeah, and look, I hate to say it, but I saw it coming. And the reason why is because of an issue she had with Pat Brown, I want to say maybe about a year ago, because Pat Brown was not necessarily convinced of Amanda Knox's guilt, in Meredith's case. And what's sad is that if you don't think exactly like someone, then that means that they are your enemy, and so you must treat them as such. I don't subscribe to that. I don't. I have friends in the Delphi case that believe that Richard Allen is completely guilty, and there are people that have doubts of his guilt or believe he's innocent. And we all think we know something, and sometimes we don't. We think we do, but we don't. Hey, Truth and Justice channel, how are you? But I want to make something clear. I don't want to sit here and I don't want to throw Roberta Glass under the bus. I wish her the best. I do agree with a lot of her content, and she also was very good to me in the beginning. So I don't want to pretend like those things didn't happen, because then that would be disingenuous, and that's not how I want to be with that. I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed in her behavior. It's not a very good look, in my opinion. And so, anyways, sadly, tomorrow is the 31st. Well, actually, I think it's the 32nd anniversary of the murders of Stevie Branch, Christopher Byers, and Michael Moore. Sometimes my dates get the best of me, but I believe no, it is 30. Is it 30 or okay? It's 2004, happened 93, so it's the 31st anniversary of the murders of Stevie Branch, Christopher Byers, and Michael Moore. Give me credit, I caught myself. And 3 8-year-old boys, they were murdered in a patch of woods in West Memphis, Arkansas. And I really don't care to mention the names of the convicted today because they get enough sympathy and attention. I'm sure most of you are aware of the case and have you drawn your own conclusions, or maybe you're still trying to figure it out. My heart goes to all of the families of the victims. And coming up soon, I will be having a conversation with another YouTuber named True Crime is NY. And she believes the convicted are innocent. And I feel differently. I firmly believe in their guilt. It's a polarizing case, and we agreed to do a collaboration and discuss it civilly and respectfully. And that seems to piss some people off on both sides. Despite her belief on the West Memphis Three case, we tend to agree on other cases, and we like some of the same people, such as criminal profiler Pat Brown. And I made a promo of the upcoming episode, and if you will bear with me, I would like to go ahead and play that. So just give me a second, and I'll load that up. Why did the Bojangles man go into the ladies' bathroom? Was the men's room out of order? Man, I have so many questions about Bojangles as well, even if we're not involved whatsoever. Like, what the hell is there? Is there a backstory? What was going on? Are they okay? Where did they go? And why have we never had any sighting of this person again? Who was Bojangles, and what happened to Bojangles, and where did Bojangles go? And those are interesting questions, and I wish the police didn't lose the blood scrapings. Not because I believe he was guilty, but I don't think we'd be talking about it today. Also, would have been helpful if the officer who went through the drive-through actually went in, but the guy was already gone at that point. They still collected what they needed to collect, and I don't want to go too far off the track here, but the Bojangles thing never made any sense to me, and here's why. One of the prevailing theories was that the crime didn't happen at the crime scene, or if it did, it was pretty well cleaned up. And so we're supposed to believe that a well-cleaned crime scene, like for example, if Mr. Bojangles, or whatever you want to call him, did what he did to these poor 3 8-year-old boys, and then somehow brought them back, and not just brought them back, but the guy's got a blue Velcro cast on his arm. So he's already handicapped with that. And so he puts them in the water. There's basically no real tangible evidence But then he travels to the Bojangles restaurant where he's covered in blood, and I've heard everything from mud to shit to whatever, and goes in the bathroom and leaves everything there. It's very hard for me to believe. And as much as I don't like Bob Ruff, we both agree on that. It's just not viable. My understanding, it's a guy. I don't. I've never heard anything about Mr. Bojangles being a woman, but maybe it was a mannish woman, you know. But my understanding is that it's a man. With Bojangles, my thing is that was a person who looks as if they were injured. Possibly they were definitely mentally not in a good place. How was that completely ignored? Were they okay? And yeah, I get that. From a separate standpoint, that's a good point. Now, in relation to the West Memphis Three case, I have this really weird West Memphis Three stalker. Um, and I'm not the first one to have it. Criminal profiler Pat Brown talked about how a bunch of them would go on. I don't know if it was Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and would like just completely trash the. I don't know if it would be the comment or the review section. But anyways, I blocked this person on multiple platforms, yet they still reach out to many people who write to me about the case, and they call me a deliberate liar. They do this by having another or perhaps multiple alternative accounts. Then they go to the other user's page and response, into their replies where they're not blocked. And of course, they claim all sorts of things about me. And they just can't stand that people are paying, or that they're paying attention to what I have to say, whether they agree with it or they don't. But it really bothers them when people agree with me, because what I consider is to be the truth, and the truth is painful for sorry sacks of shit like him. I don't always get everything right, but if we're going to grade my coverage, I pass the test. What this nut is doing is next level stalker shit. Now, I'm not going to mention their profile handle because I'm not going to give them any exposure, because that's what they desperately want. But I might address some of their accusations in a future episode. This person has convinced themselves that I block them because I'm afraid of them, or whatever is the perceived truth. Not at all. I just don't put up with obsessive people who want to spam my feed with their salty ass feelings. This is the kind of person who can't take rejection. So they go on the scorched earth campaign. I'm sorry, dude. I'm just not into you, because he is watching. He may not be watching right now, but he will watch. That's a promise. And all I can say is that he's not very bright. Let me give an example. In one of the murderer's post-conviction confessions, he stated after he left the crime scene, he smashed a whiskey bottle at an overpass. This overpass intersected the Service Road and Missouri Street. And this guy claimed that the overpass that the murderer mentioned was in Lakeshore, and it was an hour away from the crime scene, when in reality, it was about a mile away from the crime scene, an estimated 20-minute walk, depending on how fast you're going, how tall you are, different factors, of course, but 20 minutes is the estimate. So how about we take a visual look courtesy of Google Earth, shall we? Because I'm a deliberate liar. Give me one moment. I'm going to see if I can blow this up. Can I? Full screen layout. I guess that's as good as, oh, there we go. All right. Let's see a second. This. There we go. All right. Go ahead, zoom in. Let's try to make this bigger. All right. This is where Christopher, Stevie, and Michael, this is where they went through. This was the dead end street right here. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but just in case, I just wanted to make sure that you guys can see. So this is the pipe bridge, and things have been uprooted now, but in this area, this is where Robin Hood Hills was. This is where the kids were, this is where they were murdered. So if we listen to what one of the murderers said, or accomplices, whatever you want to call him, talked about how he left and he walked down the service road. So roughly around this way, this is where the killer was exiting. And where he was going, or where he said he smashed the whiskey bottle, it was at an overpass as he was walking home. This is it here. And just so you can kind of get a look of the overpass. This is the overpass here. This is where he said he got so upset and he smashed the bottle. And Dan Stidham and the prosecutors, the state prosecutors, they actually went to this location to see if they can find that smashed piece of bottles. And I'm sure that there were other smashed bottles and things like that there, but they did find a bottle that did match the whiskey bottle was the Evan Williams whiskey. That was the brand. And they went to another store and they matched the pieces. Of course, that wasn't good enough for Dan Stidham, but still, they still found a broken piece. You could take that for whatever it's worth, but it's worth noting. And let me see, we can exit out. So the point here is that this was supposed to be an hour away from the crime scene. That's what this person stated. And I want to see if I can find a way here. Street view. Is this street view here? Let's see. Nope, I'm still trying to figure all this stuff out, everyone. Let's see. Nope. The overpass. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to start over. Just going to give me a moment, everyone. There we go. Appreciate your patience. Let's see. What am I doing wrong here? I know I'm doing something wrong. Oh, there we go. Jeez, that's it. How do I get it back to the street view? There we go. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right. So let's measure. So here's the overpass. And this is where the killer exited the crime scene. And as we can see here, it's a little less than a mile. That's not 60 minutes away, and it's about a 20-minute walk. So I don't know where this person is getting an hour from. Remove from stage. There we go. Absolutely. Happy birthday, Mora. It's my first time using it now. I know Gray Hughes, I think he uses, isn't that what he uses? I think he uses Google Maps to really map everything out. And so I thought that was interesting. And when the person said that where the whiskey bottle was smashed, under an overpass and that it was an hour away from the crime scene, I'm like, no, that's not right. And so I'm like, why don't we show the service road where one of the killers walked and then was walking home and then smashed that whiskey bottle under the overpass. And as you can see, it's less than a mile away. It's a mile away. So I don't know what they're smoking to think that. Now, I could be wrong, but I actually went back. I did screenshot it, but I think my stalker deleted that sorry ass post. So I think even they know like that wasn't true. And that should be a valuable lesson that you shouldn't throw stone in glass houses. And perhaps, he should maybe also stay in his lane because making that claim was pretty embarrassing. And then there's the Delphi Grifters. Frank, who is best known as Art of Deduction, is back after having 2 channels banned on YouTube. His initial ban was for showing altered crime scene photos of Abby and Libby. The second time was for ban evasion. And I'm not sure what the holdup is now, but I do implore any of you to report his channel. You can do so by finding my post about him on my community page. Just scroll down. I mean, look, a ban is a ban, and it happened for a good reason. And in addition, this sick bastard also sent crime scene photos to the families. He has no remorse for his actions. He's a little prick who looks like the Wish version of Michael Pitt. Don't know who that is? Look him up. I believe someone said Frank claims to be a model, but to me, he's just a model asshole. Put the bottle down, Frank. And so let's go ahead and at least see 2 shorts that I did post. So for anyone who is not aware, you can kind of get an idea of this asshole. So let me just remove some things here. All right, share screen. Burn after reading live. All right. So here's the first one. This is basically when he created his second channel.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't care if the family appreciated that or not. I'm an investigator. That's what I do. And if I need to be honest with the family, there's no considerations because the truth is not always pretty.
And I'm sorry, I don't know who fucking told him to be an investigator or what he's investigating. As far as we know, they got the guy, or at least we're going to find out if they got the guy. So, okay. And this is the one where this is his 3rd channel back on YouTube.
What's up, ladies and gents? Guess who's back? So listen, here's the deal. You all wanted me gone. You got me rid for a period of time, but I'm back. And I'm back for a reason. Because I can't be intimidated. And trust me, you want to talk shit about me? Go ahead.
So, yeah, there's that guy. And yeah, he is a little joke and he doesn't investigate shit. You're absolutely right. But I think it proves without any doubt that people like him, they don't care about the families. They'll claim that they care about the families, and then they'll do some off the wall shit, which I could only assume when he shared those crime scene photos, when he sent those to the families. I got to believe his mind was intoxicated to do it. I'm speculating. I don't know that. But either way, it doesn't matter. Because even with a sober mind, he thinks this kind of behavior is rational. It's acceptable. And it's not. And there are people who say that we should just ignore him. And I do understand that argument. I do. But a ban is a ban. It is. A ban is a ban. And it happened for good reason. And in addition, like I just mentioned, the sick little bastard, he sent those photos to the families. It's gross. And that, cold truth, you know a lot about this. Then there's the true crime televangelist, Anthony Greeno. And before I get into him, you all got to go check out Cold Truth's and Truth Be Told's latest videos. You got to go to their channels. Watch the videos, subscribed. Two awesome ladies, just stellar. They knock it right out of the park. But once again, Greeno is doing the Greeno grift by asking the people for money so that he can make a docuseries. He claims it's about justice for Abby and Libby, but let's be real. Justice is going to happen in the court. Greeno has nothing to do with administrating justice. When he was investigating, he pointed the finger at other people. He never pointed a finger at Richard Allen. He didn't. And look, Mr. Cowboy, Mr. Outlaw, he's not going to go serve vigilante justice if Richard Allen is found innocent. I don't think so. It's big talk from a little man. And by the way, y'all see what Judge Gall wrote about him regarding cameras in the courtroom? True Crime Investigates is not a real news media outlet. And he can complain or AKA claim that he had a heart-to-heart to whoever about it. But The Onion is more credible as a news media outlet than his shitty channel. He's a broke-ass bitch grifting off people because he doesn't have the ambition to be a man and get a real job. Or be a father. Back to the job. When I say a job, I mean a job that pays a livable wage. And no, digital panhandling, that's not having a real job. But this dude is so mad that, and whether you like these people or you don't, but like people like the Murder Sheet, Bob Motta, Gray Hughes, and even Rick Snay, they get that media or TV attention in some form or another. The media doesn't want anything to do with him. Boy, does that chap his ass. They don't want his so-called expert opinion. What was his biggest flex? When Crime Nation showed him flipping the double bird as if that's something to be proud of. Basically, they said that was the only value that you brought. But regardless, the gullible are donating to Mr. Greeno. And in a moment, we'll take a look at one of his videos. But let me check the chat here. He flat out claimed that it was going to be about him. He needs $6,000 to hire his own producer, film crew, while claiming to be both those things. Yeah, isn't that a little weird? Pretty weird. When it's called when you take credit for solving cases, or what's it called when you take credit for solving cases? And he didn't solve anything. He did not solve anything. He didn't. Like, he interjects himself in the most weird ways because God, he wants to be relevant. And there are people, unfortunately, that do give him that relevancy. Not any real news, conglomerates, no. But I'm talking about people. And I call them the gullible people. And when I say gullible, I'm not trying to be mean to them. I'm really not. But it's like with televangelism, and when these people, they think that this person who is televangelizing, they think that's a good person and they want to become a part of something. And so they donate, and they don't understand that they're being swindled. And unfortunately, they're easy to persuade and to manipulate. Is that the Unhinged, Christopher? Because they just came out with one that was really funny. They did one with Rick Snay that was really funny, and then they just did one not too long ago that was actually a riot. Yeah, and I mean, look, I cover certain cases or I cover certain people, but I don't have this belief that I'm somehow special or important. I just cover things. People can hear what I have to say. They can like it. They can not like it. They can agree with it. They can disagree with it. I mean, I appreciate anyone who appreciates the work that I do. That's always nice, but it's not something where I need that kind of validation. And I don't need to be on television talking about Mora Murray. I don't need to be on television talking about the West Memphis Three. If there's other people they are interviewing, I have no problem with that. Yes, I do. Burn after reading mm@gmail.com. Anyone is welcome to email me. So anyways, let's check out this this video of Mr. Greeno that he just posted not too long ago. I kind of cut it up a little bit, just, you know, it was like a little over 5 minutes. And then I'll commentate after certain things that he says. Well, during the video.
From trial. Am I ready for this? Ugh, man, that video had me like really emotional right there.
What is with the music? What is that? Can you guys hear me? I'm interested. Like, what is with the music? That is weird. Like, it's setting this really weird narrative, and it's, I guess, supposed to really tug on the heartstrings.
Again, because I feel it. I feel it.
Yeah, I feel something too.
Coming. I've waited 7 years for this. You have no idea what this case means to me. The journey along the way has just led me here today, right here with you, to tell you a story about two girls in my hometown. This is tears of finally.
Well, adjacent, actually.
Finally. We'll finally see the justice play out. Man, I don't know what overcame me. It's to tell you the story from my point of view. It upsets me that things like Court TV come out and there's big name people on there. They're constantly pushing that the killer is not guilty in a case that they've just come into and started talking about because this guy got arrested, but they didn't do the investigation. For 7+ years, I've been investigating this crime.
And in no way was he ever close of solving it.
Every day of my life, every day, how I would feel when the time came to close this case. And I feel like I don't know what to do after that. All in the name of trying to find justice for Abby and Libby. It's brought a whole community of people together. We are an unstoppable force.
What? Unstoppable force? What does that fucking mean? Again, what did you do other than talk about it and get a lot of views from it? Because it's easy to get a lot of views from a popular case. My God, my biggest views come from the West Memphis Three. And secondary to that, there's other things. I mean, I've talked about Delphi. That's hit or miss for me. a few of my videos for you. Yeah, they've had quite a few hits. I've talked about the Kylie Rodney thing. That's given me a few hits. What you talk about is what gets you views. Anyways.
I have the opportunity now. I mentioned the documentary, and I told you that not only that documentary would take you into the Delphi murders, but it would also take you into my life, into how I became who I am.
There it is. There it is. First, it's about justice for Abby and Libby, but it's really about Greeno, isn't it? Guys, I'm going to use two girls to talk about me. Talk about me and my journey.
I cannot tell the story in a 2-hour documentary. We've changed up some things, and I'm going to ask for your help, and I'm going to explain why. It's a docu-series.
Oh, great. Great.
8 one-hour segments. It's going to take you into a story of all of this, from Michael Catt to my jail time and the bad things that people say about me to the
Oh. I hope I'm in it.
good. It's going to give you an intimate look into my life behind the scenes. Things that you've never seen before, heard before. How I use social media, and it's going to detail the story of Abby and Libby, and it's going to detail how I came to the conclusions that I did, the trials and tribulations that I went through just by being who I am. It's an 8-part, and that's going to be more funding than what I thought. But I have to do this. This is the final thing that I can do on the Delphi case, is I can show people what it was like for the internet to tear apart a small town, a docu-series. And the first 2 are going to air right here on YouTube. And I'm going to ask you for your support, and I'm going to ask you guys to make contributions to my PayPal, because we raised $13.97 or something like that of the $1,500. But I need immediately 500 more, because and I need to continue to do content and keep making videos, because this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and I have an opportunity, a new direction where I can actually do this on a platform. True Crime Investigates, of being on a national platform, is a reality, because it's my final thing that I can do for this case. And it's not going to air until after the trial, because we're filming it now. It's my final goodbye to this case. So when this case is closed, I plan to have episode 1 and 2 done and brought to you right around that time. So we have something to look forward to. We can go back at that moment and start all over from my story into this and how it led to that point in that day. And if you support that, please make donations on the PayPal tonight.
All right, I gotta leave, okay?
John, we just started. Come on, man.
Listen, there's a lot to see in this life. Not wasting it here.
So there you have it. Do you see how this parallels to a televangelist? And people's willingness to give large amounts of money to televangelists can be influenced by a variety of factors. Some may be drawn to the charisma and the persuasive abilities of a certain televangelist, which Greeno does have. He's able to persuade, and he has a little bit of charisma to him. I think it's kind of cheesy charisma, but it does appeal to some. And while you have other people that may believe strongly in the message and the mission of a religious organization, and in this case, well, it's about a cause. It's justice for Abby and Libby. And, individuals, they may be seeking a sense of community, hope, or some kind of fulfillment. And they may see that donating as a way to support these goals. And so some of these people do think they're doing something meaningful by donating to this child support owning ass. And by the way, wouldn't be surprised if he is asking for these donations to pay some of his child support. But let me be clear, I'm not saying that's the case, but it wouldn't surprise me. But I don't believe all that money is going to go where it's supposed to go. Hello, Crime Geek. Thank you for stopping in real quick. Appreciate it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's basically what I have, guys. But what do you guys want to talk about? I wanted to cover just a few things. I am very excited about, um, talking to True Crime is NY. I do hope someone who talks to Carly checks in on her. Yeah, that's been a weird one. That's been kind of silent. I'm not going to draw conclusions to it, but it's weird. Carly finally got sick of supporting him. That's why he needs the money for a ticket back to Indiana and pay the child support, or they're gonna lock him up and won't be able to be out for trial. Yeah, that does not surprise me. Yeah, and I'm really interested in what True Crime is NY, what she has to say. Like I said, like our goal is not to go at each other's throats. I know that's where look, that's where the clicks are and stuff, but I think a civil discussion, like I'm comfortable knowing what I know. And I'm not planning to change her mind. I can't change minds. That's up to the person with the information that they're given. They have to make that decision. And that's exactly it. And look, when it comes to debates, I mean, sometimes it's just how a person comes off and how they deliver the message. You know, someone I remember hearing something really interesting during the Kennedy Nixon debate, where if you watched it on television, you would think that you think John Kennedy won that debate, but if you listen to it on the radio, you would think that Nixon won. Now, I've never heard the debate, but I always heard about that. I thought that was interesting. After 20 years of investigating the disappearance of Mora Murray, I truly believe that law enforcement is involved to some degree or completely responsible. And Truth Seeker, there was a time where I thought that idea was ludicrous. I don't think that anymore. Um, I can't decisively say if it's this or that, but they have some questions to answer. And when I say law enforcement, I mean the ones that were there from the beginning. I'm very happy with the law enforcement that's talking with Julie Murray now, and there seems to be a better relationship, and I hope that continues to grow. Yeah, my understanding was that he was sweating under the bright lights. He was a handsome man. I mean, that's part of it. He was a handsome man. Let me ask you guys this. Has anyone been paying attention to the Karen Reed case? I'm a little curious what your take is on it. How do you see it going? For anyone that's even remotely paying attention to it. To be honest with you, I heard the name Karen Reed for quite a while, but I didn't pay attention to it. I just knew about it. Then a friend brought it up, and I'm like, let me try to get the gist of what this is about, and it is crazy. Oh, I would have no idea. I would have no idea of that. Truth Seeker, do you have any idea regarding that? Because I don't. Wow, that had to be surreal. Yeah, and cold, that's the thing. You know, for whatever reason, certain cases, were drawn to it. Um, you know, you know, I'm clearly I'm clearly invested in the Mora Murray case. Now I don't investigate. I just follow it. Um, I report things as I see it, but like but like and I would even call myself an advocate, but I don't, there are certain things that we just don't know. I spoke to former New Hampshire State Police Trooper John Monahan quite a few years back. I asked him, "What do you think happened to Mora Murray?" And is that something you can share with what was his response? Truth? But getting back to yeah, like there are certain cases, like again, Mora Murray, which is a disappearance case. It's more probable than not that foul play happened. And then, of course, there's the West Memphis Three case. And I think the reason why that was of an interest to me is because I remember watching the documentary. And look, I was the kid. I believe it or not, which is funny. Um, I wore black. I wore black trench coats as a kid. Now, I didn't connect with Damien even back then, but we seem to have the same fashion sense. Yeah, and didn't John Douglas create a bullshit profile? Does that ring a bell, T Coon? I just no, I didn't do anything to her. That's a weird response. Now I'm not saying that he did, but that is a weird response. No crime geek, you're not allowed to leave. Cancel your plans. Cancel them. I'm kidding, of course. Sorry, I have to go back. I'll circle in when I can. This is a great live. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, not a fan of John Douglas. I hate to say it, but you know, Hollywood guy, he's for sale. He's for sale for whoever hires him. I only follow and watch the Delphi case right now, or I watch some other stuff from time to time, but that's the most interesting case right now. I've been following it for 5+ years, but I don't need any money. Yeah. And again, going back to it, like there are just cases that we get drawn to. And you hear other people. I mean, there are some people, man, they can follow like 30 cases that are going on. I just don't have the capacity to do that. Going back to the West Memphis Three thing, as a kid watching the documentaries in '96 and not thinking much of it, but it's just one of those things that always get brought up. And when there was a part two, I'm like, they have a part two on this? And so I watched that. And then, of course, that's where it got really heavy with the propaganda and the advocacy that they were innocent. And, it's one of those things where it probably wasn't until 2013, 2014 to where, I really started to dig, regarding the case. And that's, when I found out about Callahan, the Callahan site, and started looking at that. And then, noticing that they're even outside of the case files and all that other stuff, but just things that Damien was saying, and even Jason, things that he was saying that didn't make any sense. And they were contradictions to try to make themselves look more innocent instead of owning up to certain things, which I thought was quite bizarre. So, I mean, yeah, Maura Murray, Delphi, West Memphis Three, um, like those are some that I follow. Whether they're solved already or whether things are ongoing. The Skylar Niece case, just because that was a heartbreaking one. Yeah, again, I'm not saying the guy did anything. I can't say that, but I understand that's a head tilter. Like what? Like why would you respond that way? Yeah, Ditch, if you're referring to the Paradise Law series, yeah, like the first one, I didn't really think anything of it. I thought they were guilty, but I didn't think much of it. But part two and part three made me believe that they were innocent. I believe like what they were saying at that time. I mean, look, you're watching something, you're just absorbing the information, you're not fact checking it, and so you're believing the narrative. Especially when you're just young and you're just watching something, you wouldn't think that a documentary would lie to you, but documentaries lie. It's just what they do. They set the narrative that they want, even when they're truthful. Most parts, the whole point is to bring a narrative. I don't know. I don't believe so, but I don't know. Lisa, so yeah, what do you think? Like, what's your opinion of it? Do you believe she's guilty? Do you believe that she will be found guilty? Do you believe she's innocent? Do you believe she will be found innocent? Yeah, documentaries are propaganda, no matter which way you slice it. You got to fact check them. You really do. Because the whole point of a documentary is to set a narrative. Now, they can be truthful. Like, I'm not saying that, but like, you still like, I mean, God, Michael Moore's not to be confused with one of the boys that was murdered, but Michael Moore, the filmmaker, the liberal filmmaker. Oh, his documentaries, and it doesn't matter if you're liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, or neither. That guy was a straight up hack. Straight up. The dude lied. That's a good question. Now, I believe that the state, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cold or Ditch, but I believe the state is trying to suppress that from being mentioned. Well, when I say that, anything that's Kagan, Tony Klein related, among other things, I think the Odinist thing, I think they're trying to suppress that, which, I mean, if it's ludicrous, it has nothing to do with it. But I don't know. Maybe that's just a state prosecutor thing. I don't know. I became kind of friendly with John Monahan when he was chief. When he left town, we used to speak via Facebook Messenger. Then all of a sudden he stopped. I sent emails to him, no response. Interesting. Interesting indeed. I'll have to look into that. First innocence myth. I had no idea. Give me an example, bootleg. I'm curious about that one. I'm not disputing it. I'm just curious if you have an example. I believe she is guilty. The defense is doing a great job, though. I hear she has a world class defense team. I believe who even represented Kevin Spacey If I'm not mistaken. I'm sure there's another a notable person, but I can't think of it. But I know Kevin Spacey was one, and they got him off. The injuries on his arms are disturbing, and I want to know what both sides will say about that. Are you saying Rocky 4 is American propaganda? I will break you. I must break you. Is it weird as a kid I was rooting for Dolph Lundgren, and the reason why is because I saw Rocky 4 after I saw the live action Masters of the Universe movie, and he played He-Man, and so I liked the actor naturally. Does that make me weird? I was rooting for the Soviet. Yeah, but come on, the Rambo films were so good. Well, okay, I should say the first one was so good. I didn't particularly care for any of the others, but the first one was so good. We just had a man released from a maximum sentence here in Norway. He was innocent for 21 years, and his best friend is going back to trial now for committing the whole crime back in 2000. Wow. You got a name for that ditch? That's crazy. So other things that I'm going to work on in the future on this channel, the West Memphis Three thing has really overtaken me. I thought once I did the series that I did, I thought that I would be done with it. But there's so much more information that I feel that needs to be shared, and I think especially the forensic stuff is something that I definitely want to bring up. Okay. All right, cool. Thank you for answering that, Cold Truth. I do appreciate it. That answers it. In Rocky for the Creed Drago fight, Apollo's corner guys were all wearing Hugo Boss. He designed Nazi uniforms. Nazis were anti-communist. Mind blown. First Blood was the best one in the original script. Rambo was supposed to die in the end. And that probably they probably thought that was too depressing, or they probably just saw the potential. Well, it's weird because the Rambo films really became something different after. They thought maybe the ending would have been too depressing, but that was a depressing story. Like I just watched that. I remember watching parts of it as a kid. And of course, as a kid, you can only remember so much of it. And last year, I don't know if it was on Max or I think it was on Max. I decided to watch it, and I was like, it was fun, but I was like, man, that is a depressing ass movie. Because you do feel bad for Rambo, and great take on FB, Rick. Let me read this. I guess there's no way of knowing, obviously, but do you ever wonder if Damien's wife deep down knows he's guilty or could be guilty and just doesn't care? Almost like it was her ticket to fame. Maybe Titans fan. I don't know. I don't know what's in her head. You do have people who have this, and I know there's a terminology for that, people that are attracted to, bad people, whether it's murderers or felons, whatever the case may be, drug dealers. I don't know what's in her head. I would only be speculating. But I'll tell you what, she played a large role of getting a lot of support for Damien. And of course, Jason and Jesse by proxy, but for Damien, that was her intent. Look, yeah, that's an interesting point. I don't believe that there is going to be any viable DNA. They go ahead, use MVAC, use the shit out of it. What they're going to do, because I believe they know there's not going to be any viable DNA, no conclusive DNA. And so the argument's going to be there's no conclusive DNA that proves Damien, Jason, and Jesse did it, so they should be exonerated. That's what they're going to do. Or they're going to say, oh, probably if we did this so many years ago, we probably would have found something, but the police and the state, they just didn't want to. Or even if, hypothetically, which I don't believe is going to happen, but let's say hypothetically, in those ligatures, they picked up viable, conclusive DNA from either of the suspects. They're going to say the police planted it. Come on. There's a built-in excuse for everything. And just like how Greeno has a dumb audience, there is, and I'm not speaking to every supporter of the West Memphis Three. I don't want to group everyone, but there is that hardcore base. There is that hardcore base where they just believe that no matter what, Damien, Jason, and Jesse are innocent, and it doesn't matter what evidence you bring up, what facts you bring up, they're innocent. There's a guide to third-party defense strategy. Glad she's having a hearing on that next week. Are you referring to the Delphi case, Cold? I just want to make sure, because I was thinking Karen Reed, so I just want to make sure I understand. Yeah. I mean, and also let's be honest, those ligatures still may not be tested. It's just going back to the appellate court. I believe that they most likely will be tested, and also too, the defense can kind of withhold certain information on those tests too. But if it decides to go that way, but like I said, I don't think you're not going to find anything viable. This is smoke and mirrors, but hey, let it play out. Let it play out. It makes the West Memphis Three supporters happy, and they're going to go ahead and they're going to donate money to, one of the killers, if not a couple of them. Jesse's, he's out of the picture, but I don't understand U.S. laws, but wasn't the West Memphis Three taking almost a guilty plea? No, they did take a guilty plea. The Alford plea is a guilty plea. Now, if you're meaning before that, I know that one of the things on the table that the prosecution brought in was a flat out guilty plea, and the defense said no, they were going to do that. Then, that's why they suggested the Alford plea, where the state got their guilty plea, but then the West Memphis Three get to maintain their innocence. And now we see how good that is. I'll tell you what, this sets a standard that it'll most likely no prosecution will settle for an Alford plea again. I guarantee you the state's probably thinking, you know what, we should have just played this out. And if Brent Davis didn't become a judge and he was still a prosecutor, I almost guarantee you he would have looked at the Alford plea and said no. That's my opinion anyways. Whether you think they're innocent or guilty, if the celebrities didn't get involved, they would probably still be in prison. I think so. And it just also tells you what money can do for you. And I also think it says something that the best that you were able to buy was a guilty plea, but to be free. Even with the alleged $10 to $20 million defense, and Peter Jackson put a lot of money into it, the celebrities, but Peter Jackson was very prominent on that front. the best that you were still able to buy, because they didn't have the guts to take that hearing in December of 2011 to see if they can get a new trial. And all this bullshit that Damien said about, well, they said that they would keep this going for years and years before there was a trial. Nope. The state, if the West Memphis Three would have had a new hearing, or I'm sorry, a new trial, the state would have 9 to 12 months to get it going, or they would have to set them free. So that's not true. If the DNA proves their guilt, they can have some sense of peace in the knowledge that they will not be charged criminally, though. Well, yeah, either way, it doesn't matter. See, it's a win-win because it's about the court of public opinion. It's not about what's based in both factual and based on legal fact and just the facts alone. There, it looks good for Damien no matter what. That's what a good PR team does, is win the court of public opinion, because they're already free, and it's a way for Damien to get some more money. It's good for a lot of people to get money on that camp. All right, gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that with the Delphi hearing. I thought that's what you meant, but I wanted to make sure. West Memphis Three evidence disappeared, then suddenly shows up in pristine condition. Really? No, it didn't disappear. There were people that just simply misspoke in regards to that, and they found everything, and it was perfectly cataloged. If the state was really worried, and if they wanted to go with, it burned in a fire, well, they could have made that happen. They didn't. So I'm not seeing much of a conspiracy there. This is involving the Mora Murray case. Could the Westmans really tell the difference between the distinctive headlights of a Saturn as opposed to the reverse lights, one or both of them recalled? What do you think with that, John? That's a good question, John. That's a good question. I'd have to look into that. Did they test it? Did they not test it? I'd have to look into it. Yes, I am in the United States. I'm in the Midwest. Yes, they do. I think the three little boys were found much sooner than planned. If found even a week later, there would have been less evidence. Hell, there was less evidence even 18 to 24 hours when Bodie, when they did their tests. Again, they mentioned about how water destroys evidence. In court, one of the serologists, mentions how water destroys evidence, and was like really dirty, murky, water that those poor boys were put into, and also their clothes, and water destroys evidence, and that seems to be hard for people. They think they're going to find that little nugget, but I don't think that they are. Could I be wrong? Sure. I believe it's possible. I don't believe in 100% on anything. I don't. I look at the beyond reasonable doubt, and I think it's beyond reasonable doubt they're not gonna find anything. All right, about the Mora Murray case. I think they're speaking about the Marats because of the distance and the trees blocking their view. It is possible that it was backup or headlights. Thank you for answering that, John. Yeah, and something that Lisa O'Brien we've talked about, I believe in contamination. I believe that basically, when people searched that night and when the police got there, a lot of everything was contaminated. Also, keep in mind, police were trudging through that water ditch, looking for the boys' bodies and things like that. So, say if by some off chance the DNA of one of those cops got on there, because now, everyone talks about Terry Hobbs, but really who Damian Eccles is going after, he thinks that someone, either a police officer or someone involved with police enforcement, they're the ones responsible. So imagine if you saw one of those cops' DNA and let's say at any of those ligatures, um, which I don't think you'll find, but if you did, it's like you're not understanding. They were trudging through that water. So what if their hand touched that rope? Now in water, would that hold? I don't know. I don't believe so, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think he's trying to put it on Steve Jones, if I'm not mistaken. All right, not a problem. What? I do not believe Terry Hobbs is missing. I just talked to him the other day. I think about it whenever I pass one. They're so small and close together. Yeah, something when I was talking with Robert, the interview I did with him, and I've heard this from other people too. Like the accident scene, it's much smaller and more compact than the camera really shows. And I know that, you know, Truth Seeker, he knows what I'm talking about. He's been there, and you've been there. My take on Terry, well, there's nothing to indicate that he committed the crime. Um, all of these accusations that Pam's family has made against him, after 2007, if they felt that he had any potential role in this, it's very deplorable that they didn't say anything, because there were people that pointed to John Mark Byers uh, after the kids got murdered, like almost right after. So here, Terry Hobbs, he has these issues with, um, he has issues with Pam, and man, it was a toxic relationship between Terry and Pam, and it was not good with the family. And then people bring up about him shooting the brother. Well, Pam called the brother. Terry tried to avoid the confrontation with the brother. The brother, huge, this was a big boy, and they got into a scuffle and stuff like that, and the dude got shot. Um, not saying it's right, but you got to defend yourself. And of course, the hair. What really bothers me, and this is a lot of the misconceptions of public perception, is people will say that hair was a match. No, it was not a match. It was just not inconsistent with, and there is a difference. And also the fact that all of those boys went to all each other's homes, their secondary transfer, and the West Memphis Three's own serologist, Thomas Fedor, said that it would be extremely weak evidence. And one of the defense lawyers even admitted to that, but the argument they were trying to make was like, yeah, but there was nothing of any of the West Memphis Three that was at that crime scene. And that's what we're getting at. So, but see, that's not the perception that people have. And again, right now, to this day, one of the killers is trying to point to a juvenile parole officer. I do believe a corrupt police officer killed John Benet Ramsey. That case is just full of police doing some dumb stuff and weird obstruction. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. I know my buddy Paul would probably know more about that than me. But what a sad case. Very sad. I know there are people who believe that quite possibly the husband and wife or just the husband had something to do with it. A lot of weird circumstances. Um, I reserve judgment. Okay. All right. Regarding the Mora Murray case, also Pamela Webb from Maine and another law enforcement officer not doing his job or lying. And I want to go back to the Terry Hobbs thing. Um, just because Terry Hobbs didn't do every good thing in his life, because I mean, John Mark Byers, he was another one. So you have all these people. As a matter of fact, I mean, Pam Hicks, I mean, she was arrested for, when I say Pam Hicks, for those that used to be the ex-wife of Terry Hobbs, um, she was arrested for disorderly conduct. She had her problems with Amanda, um, which I hope I'm getting the name right, but Morbid Justice actually did an interview with Amanda Hobbs. You guys might want to look into. Sorry, wrong, Terry Hobbs. Who are you referring to? Is that true? I don't know anything about that. I know Jim Clemente, I think it was on a CBS show, tried to profile it. That I don't know if they tried to profile. I think he tried to profile that the brother did it, if I'm not mistaken. I know I covered it in one of my West Memphis Three cases when I'm talking, but it was a while ago and I don't have the information in front of me. Look into Molly Bish and Holly. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Perian murders in Massachusetts. More possibilities of law enforcement involved. And Truth Seeker, do you think those are connected, or do you think those are isolated law enforcement involvements? In your opinion, what do you think? By the way, great discussion, everyone. I think this is pretty cool. Just to be able to talk, that's awesome. And I hope I'm not missing anyone. Like if they asked a question, I don't mean to. Just kind of going through the comments and answering, and then things just kind of go. Again, I would like to shout out to Cold Truth. Check out our channel, especially on the Anthony Greeno stuff. Her last episode was one of the best ones, and she's had. I mean, when I say one of the best ones, that's not to bring down any of the others. She has a lot of great content, but this latest episode, which I think was kind of impromptu because she couldn't sleep, but man, a lot of good stuff in there. What's my opinion on the Brian Kohlberger case, and are you going to do a podcast on it? Probably not. I think the only way that I would do so is just so I'm clear. Is that the guy who murdered those college kids in that White House? I think the house is demolished now. Am I thinking of the right person? Let me do a quick search. I believe Molly and Holly are connected. One of the law enforcement officers from Massachusetts in those cases involved or moved to New Hampshire, both New Hampshire, 2 miles from the Mora Murray incident. Interesting. Pretty much. People think that when someone has FBI in front of their name, that they're flawless. They're not, unfortunately, just like law enforcement. And that does not to say that the FBI can't do any good. Have you ever read Blood of Innocence? That was one of the first books about the case, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, YouTube Hoops? Or I'm assuming that means YouTube Hoops, if not just Y2 Hoops. Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe people, is that something that people can find online? I don't know if it ever had any digital copies, so people can read it in an ebook. Like how would anyone even get it started to crowdfund a reprint? Like I would assume the authors, I don't know any ownership of the publication that had it. Like I wouldn't know how to go about that legally. Oops, there we go. The officer from Massachusetts was working for the Grafton County Sheriff's Department in 2004. Correct. I read it in the 5th grade, took from my brother, now 34, still fascinated in the case. It's an interesting case, and more likely than not, it probably wouldn't have been a case that I've really would have ever got into. I watched the first Paradise Lost documentary, and if that would have been it at that point, that probably would have been it for me. But I think it was the perception part of the innocence that that's what kind of drew me back, because I did believe in their innocence. And then when you do start to look more into it, both everything that's inside the trial itself, the police investigation, reports, interviews, everything that happens after, and then of course these things that happen after they're released, or what's being said in interviews during their imprisonment, and then you realize certain things don't match. On Christopher's autopsy, there was no Ritalin in his system that was prescribed for him. What was found was a seizure medication that was prescribed for John Mark Byers. And what do you think? What does that mean to you? What do you think? And I'll tell you this: if anyone thinks that I'm going to say that John Mark Byers was Father of the Year, I don't think that's the case at all. There is a drug history there, absolutely. Does that make him a murderer? And I'm not saying that's what you're saying or that's what you're insinuating. No, but probably maybe not the best. Maybe John wasn't the best father. And to put it in perspective, he was a stepfather, but he adopted, or he took it, he adopted Christopher, and that's why he has his last name. All right, it's a Brian Kohlberger case. Man, that one's obvious. I don't know why I forgot. Like, I wanted to make sure that was the same guy and I wasn't talking about something else. But Brian Kohlberger, to answer that question, I don't see a need, unless the only way that I would want to cover it, if there's a misconception where he's found guilty, there's an innocence campaign, and somehow, some way they release him, or it's just huge. And then if I need to look in the facts of that case to show that no, he's not innocent, that would probably be the only way I'd want to get into it. Yeah, I mean, pick your poison on that. Pick your poison on that. Um, even after the crime, John Mark Byers had a lot of he had his legal issues. He also, I believe, was an informant for law enforcement when it came to some of the drug stuff. So there's that as well, because well, had connections, and of course, John didn't have a lot of loyalty to anyone but himself. I mean, he was paid pretty well to act like a fool, especially, all the family was paid in the first documentary. In the second one, he was really the only one that participated. I think he was the only one that participated. In fact, Melissa died before, and he acted like a complete fool. He made a complete ass of himself, and that was so disrespectful to his stepson and the other two children, Stevie and Christopher. I'm sorry, Stevie and Michael. Um, shouldn't have happened. Byers and Branch are both so easy to dismiss on so many levels. White trash drunks don't commit these types of crimes. So I understand Byers, Christopher Byers. When you say Branch, did you mean Hobbs, as in Terry Hobbs, or are you talking about Stevie's father, uh, Steve Branch Sr.? Yeah, and to be fair, it seems like a lot of people in that area didn't take very good care of their teeth, whether it be meth or not. Hey, welcome. Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought you meant. And to go back, it doesn't mean that white dress drunks don't commit these kind of crimes. It's just it doesn't fit in this case. It just doesn't. Um, John Mark Byers had an alibi, whether the West Memphis Three supporters like it or not. Um, Terry Hobbs had an alibi. And what I love about it is that no one wanted to talk about John Mark Byers' alibi when everyone thought it was John Mark Byers. They made every excuse in the book that he didn't have an alibi. All of a sudden, they point to another stepfather. Oh, no, it couldn't be John. He had an alibi. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, again, it's that confirmation. It's just that it's that bias. It's like, oh, that's who they're saying is doing it now. Truth Seeker, thank you so much for coming on, man. You take care as well. I'm probably going to call it a day here soon. It's very true. Addicts will do anything for a fix. I mean, it's true. Yeah, I'm thinking that the ones that didn't have an alibi took an out for plea. Yeah, well, the West Memphis Three, yeah, they did take an out for plea. They didn't have any good alibis. The West Memphis Three supporters will vehemently try to say that they did, but they didn't. And if when I do talk with True Crime is NY, and if that gets brought up, I'll mention it. Well, right, and we can look at that as they ever had a history of murdering anyone, and no, not at all. Yeah, me too. Now, I wouldn't say that I was a colossal supporter, but I did believe in their innocence. I did believe the narrative that was told to me. I also didn't really have a grasp of how certain cases are tried. Um, not everything has the CSI effect to it that a lot of people believe. Not that it can't be useful. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you can come up with reason beyond a doubt, or beyond a reasonable doubt, rather. Um, you know, no, because if Jason Baldwin flips on Damien, well, then Damien flips on Jason, and that's self mutual destruction. So, you know, Jesse, again, I don't know what he knew, what was to be expected. Maybe he, or maybe he did. Again, this is all speculation. We just know that he was there, he was involved. So whether he knew it was going to escalate to this level or whether he expected it, but the effect of as it's happening and after that had some, it affected him negatively. And an example of this would be, again, the Skylar Neese case and her two murderers, Sheila Eddy and Rachel Shove. Sheila was able to play that little manipulative person, going to the family, crying, saying that they, I miss her, and then passing out flyers, where Rachel wanted nothing to do with it, and it was weighing on her heavily. Like the guilt was weighing on her, and it weighed on Jesse, but it didn't really weigh on Damien and Jason. But if you guys watched the first Paradise Lost film, what I find to be very interesting was when Paul Ford, when I guess they were waiting for, again, the way that you splice film and all this other stuff, but they're pretty much waiting for a verdict. And Paul Ford, which was Jason's defense attorney, he asked Jason, do you think Damien could have done it? And he doesn't say, no, he couldn't have done it. He kind of dances around it. Well, they kind of make it seem like he did. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to overanalyze, what he was thinking, but I don't understand why you just don't say no, we're both. And Paul Ford, he thought that Damien was guilty. He did. He thought he was guilty. He made no bones about that. Just saying, when cops arrested DN and JB, I mean, did you mean Damien Eccles and Jason Baldwin? They were hiding under their beds, naked from the waist down. Just saying. I didn't hear about being naked from the waist down. I just know that they were hiding under their beds. That much I know. If you could provide anything, like, did I miss something in regards to that? There might be something I may have missed, but I know they were hiding under the bed. I know that innocent people don't hide under the bed. I know that. They knew. They knew they were caught. That's why you're hiding. And that's normal. That's normal thinking to people. But you'll have people that will do mental gymnastics to try to come up with something else. Remember, Jesse's own father says, if he did it, he'll have to serve his time in Paradise Lost. And that's a great point. And then he knew they did it. That girlfriend saying they wouldn't send him a dime and she was soon gone. Yes. Isn't that interesting? If he did it, he'll have to serve his time. Well, if he was at that trailer park, like they try to say, they now there's the wrestling alibi, which is even weaker. But the people that say that he was there when there was some incident and the police came to file a report because I think someone slapped someone, and they all claim that 12 people claim that Jesse was there. Of course, Jesse Sr. he was an Alcohol Anonymous. I think he was doing a class with that, if I'm not mistaken. And you would just say, no, my son's not guilty. He's not guilty. I'm not going to say he's guilty. But even Jesse Sr. said, yeah, my son may have been with him, but he didn't do it. So, yeah, very interesting points, Titan. Very interesting. I'll have to look into that. With this case, it's so easy to overlook some things. It is. I think it's very interesting to look at old cases when it was all over, in 3 years with the death penalty and the execution. It is. I don't know about that. Damien had quite a number of run-ins with the cops, likely was very fearful. Yeah, but those run-ins were legit. Okay, let's talk about like when him and his ex-girlfriend was running away and they hid in that trailer and the policeman showed up, and then of course the one girl's father. And Damien's trying to wrestle the gun away from, I think this was a different incident, so forgive me. I might be crossing my wires, but there was one where, there was an issue with the girl's father, and, Damien's trying to wrestle away the gun. I mean, how fucked up is that? Try try to get a gun from a cop and try to shoot the dad. Oh, no, purely innocent. So I do find the hiding to be particularly damning if you have something to hide, and all of his run-ins with the cops were legit. I think he does. I just think that he would do anything for his son, and that's one of those crazy moral dilemmas. It's like, whether it's right or wrong, you have some parents, I should say, who will defend their children even if it's wrong to keep them out of trouble. Yeah, I mean, totally. Yeah, Crowley, however you want to say his name, that dude was messed up. Yeah, I mean, you think you would look at that and you see, like, they want to act like Damien. He was just a depressed teenager who was different and wore black, and he liked Stephen King and he listened to Metallica, and he was just misunderstood. What the fuck is misunderstood of him trying to reach for a cop's gun to kill that girl's father? There's nothing to be misunderstand there. There's nothing. He talked about the fantasy of wanting to kill. He thought he was going to be another Ted Bundy or Charles Manson. All those things were there. UT Hoops, I look, you might be right. I respectfully disagree, but you could be right. If I'm sure there's a case out there somewhere where that could be very well the case. Someone hid because they were afraid, even though they were. That could be. I don't think so. Not with this. Damien had a reason. The whole idea theory that the police framed Damien as laughable and based on zero evidence, it's just another way for Damien to play victim. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Damien, he really retches up the whole "woe is me," just like he said that the guards threw him a welcome to the neighborhood party when he was in jail. They beat him so bad he pissed blood. They messed up his teeth. Great, show me evidence. Show me evidence of that. There's no evidence of it. There's none, but he said it. I had to learn how to reuse utensils. Oh, I've been out of the sun for over 20 years. Yeah, based on your own choice. Oh, I've never been to the crime scene before. I've never seen that in my life. You lived in the Mayfair apartments that overlooked it, you little lying bastard. You absolutely did. Damien wanted fame anyway so that he can get it still today. Absolutely. Isn't that weird? He said that he wanted to be someone, he wanted the world, he wanted to influence the world. I don't know if he's influencing the world, but he is an influence. And he's an influencer. Kind of creepy that he got away with that. He would have been charged for assault on law enforcement officer and obstruction. Well, he did face some issues with that. And and that's another thing too. Whether you consider it a satanic sacrifice or an occult sacrifice, because Damien mixed a lot of things. And I think, people will say, oh, well, he was into this, but he wasn't into Satanism, or he was into this, or he's into that. He mixed a lot of his belief, but he was heavy into Crowley's bad enough. Crowley, whatever you want to call him. I always hear people get pissed when I say Crowley and they want to say it's Crowley. Whatever. Tomato. I don't care. But he was fucked up. And yeah, like now I will say this. I think for the most part, the crime was a wilding effect. At least more so for Jason and Damien. I'm sorry, Jason and Jesse. But Damien, I think some of his occult practices could have been a giant factor for what he did, but for the most part, I think it was a wilding effect. He, that's what I think anyway. Whoa. Well, you know what? Fuck him. I've been watching Cobra Kai. I know all the tricks. I know everything. He's mine. I'm kidding, of course. I mean, do whatever you want to do, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. He thought that drinking blood gave him power. If we, with the whole Crowley thing and the child sacrifice, everyone tries to state that that was about masturbation or, but I don't know if I agree with that. But even if so, that's not the way Damien took it. When he was on the stand, he didn't try to correct it. So take that for what it's worth. Remember, Jason was asked if he could say anything to the families of the victims in Paradise Lost 1, and he just kind of smiles and says, I don't know. Yeah. Well, he didn't seem very, at that time to, until, I mean, I don't know. Take it for what it is. I don't like hypotheticals, but what innocent person would sit there and laugh that question off? Yeah, yeah. You shouldn't. Nervousness. I mean, some people they'll have that little nervous laugh at the end. And I'm not defending Jason. I never would want to do that. There are other things that he said that was head tilting, such as when Paul Ford, his defense attorney, asked him if he thought that Damien could have done it, instead of just saying no, I don't think so. He just kind of looks, goes, "Oh, they made it seem like he did." Like, you don't want to say yes, because if he said yes, that's self mutual destruction. If Damien decides to go, fuck it, I'm going to be put in prison. Fuck you, Jason. So are you. You want to rat me out? I'm ratting you out. Yeah, he did it too. So I think it was self mutual destruction. And so Jason had to choose his words carefully. You're damn right. No mercy. I don't think anyone's gonna do anything. That's right. Although he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time in a complete red herring, I do wish we knew who Mr. Bojangles was. Such a weird situation there. And that is a weird situation. I will never make excuses for law enforcement for losing the blood scrapings, and that officer should not have been at the drive-through taking a report. She should have walked her ass in there, see what was going on. They could have brought. I mean, look, I understand it was kind of all hands. Well, even then at night it wasn't all hands on deck with the search for the missing boys. Like that kind of came like early in the morning the next day. But you know, I definitely, like I said, I've mentioned it before, John, in the beginning. I did talk about it where I explained why I don't believe he's a viable suspect in the least, which I think is just grounded in common sense. But I think that if they would have done their due diligence and they didn't lose that blood scraping evidence, which was just dumb, at least maybe we wouldn't really be talking about it today. Damien knew he was caught in lies on the stand about Crowley, and Damien never flinched, even when he was a liar, or when told he was a liar. Yeah. I will say his voice broke a little bit, like when they were talking about those deciphering codes, and he put a bunch of names in there, and of course trying to downplay his association with Crowley, which was weird actually. Um, just why not say that you read about him? You know about him, and yeah, you knew the practices, but he was downplaying it. And then when it showed that he was deciphering like alphabet codes, and one of the names was Crowley or Crowley, whatever, um, you know, that was like the first time that, at least on video, that I saw where he was kind of like, oh shit, I've been figured out. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a great. Well, I don't want to say it was a great defense strategy, but their whole thing is to try to come up with something that will raise doubts with the jury and Bojangles, and the way that the cops bungled that whole situation. That certainly helped. I agree with that. I totally agree with that, Cold Truth. Um, and you can even possibly say maybe even the Stephen Avery, Brandon Dassey case. It's going to kind of go into that kind of territory, because I think that, right or wrong, if Richard Allen is found guilty, um, you're it's not over. The discussion of that whole thing is not over. Never mind, there's going to be appeals. We know that. But someone's going to come out. We already have the YouTube loonies, who vigorously believe in Richard Allen's innocence. And they might be right for now, but I'm speaking if hypothetically he's found guilty, they're not going away. And some asshole is going to see money signs, who have the means, who have the production value, they can sell this, whether it's going to be on Amazon Prime, Netflix, Peacock, whatever. They're going to see the potential for a big docuseries special on it. And it's going to create a problem. I hope that doesn't happen. I don't, but I think that it's going to. I fear that it's going to. I don't disagree about Bojangles, John, but West Memphis is a bizarre place. A lot of strange characters drifting around. That's my understanding too. Hey, Gibbo. Am I saying your name right? Gibbo? Or is it Jibbo? Yep, that's another good comparison. Yeah, I think it is. And I hope I'm wrong. Cold. I really hope I'm wrong, because I don't want to be right. I just hope justice is served. I hope the right verdict happens, despite all the bullshit that's going on with that case. Yeah, I'm not gonna donate $6 to me. I'll use it to buy dinner. I don't take donations though. But if you're on Cold Truth's page and she does a live stream, please, you know, give her a super chat or something. Like, she does really good work, and that helps keep her going. If you're going to give it to someone, give it to someone with integrity. Yeah. I actually I really did. I did like Convicting a Murderer. I think it could have been structured a little bit better, but I do I do tip my hat that they decided to come up, to put something out that was different. And I thought it would just, even if it went out there, I thought it would just go into obscurity. And especially when I heard that it was going to the Daily Wire, I'm like, well, that's just great. You're going to put it on a political platform, and so you're already going to cut half the people on half the people that already have such a polarizing view of the case. They're not going to subscribe to the Daily Wire, but I do understand that the Daily Wire is the only one who had the guts to take it. And it doesn't matter what your political affiliations are. They were the only ones that weren't afraid of the backlash. So I do give credit for that. But I'm not a big fan of Candace Owens. Beautiful woman, but like, I wouldn't say I'm a fan. And I kind of feel that the original direction of Convicting a Murderer was kind of hijacked by putting her face on it. And I think that could potentially hurt it, even if you're a fan of Candace Owens or not. I didn't realize you were having Q&A. Next time I'm going to set an alert because I only caught this midway. Didn't know you went over Bojangles. No, that's okay. And you can watch the replay. I just went over it briefly. And, this was kind of like a free-for-all. I was kind of going with that. So that's cool, man. Man, I would be surprised if you could buy a Dave's Double with $6 in today's economy. I could be wrong, though. All right, guys, I'll tell you what, this actually went longer than I expected it to go, which is a pleasant surprise. We're hitting that 2-hour mark. So I am going to end it here, but I want to thank all of you for coming on and stating what you think. And I hope no one felt disrespected by anything that I said. It surely wasn't my intention, but I do really enjoy the conversation. Let me check out one more comment. I've heard good arguments on both sides of the cameras in the courtroom for Delphi. I can see both sides. Difficult. I still see all trials should be streamed. It's 2024. Courtrooms have the capability. And you know what, Truth? I agree with that. I think they should, because especially if there's some shit ass documentary that comes out that tries to create a narrative that's not true, people could watch it. Like, I wish, like, the Paradise Lost film, they filmed all of the both Jesse Miss Kelly's and Damien and Jason's trial. I would love to watch all of it. I would love to watch all of it. So that you could, especially even when the trial wasn't happening, because there were certain things that Damien was doing, like blowing kisses and licking his lips and basically taunting the family. And there were other things, and just to see the behavior of some of these people, and they filmed that stuff, but they didn't show everything. So I would love to see that. And in this case, that if you do have a documentary that's trying to paint a picture, people can have access to that streaming. I think that, and that shows transparency. And yeah, I do see the other side too, where it's like, we don't want to make this a circus. We don't want to make this. That was a big thing with the O.J. Simpson trial. The reason why they didn't move it out of L.A. is because they needed something big enough to, for journalists and the media. We saw what happened with that. So I do get it. But on the flip side, I think, yeah, a public stream of everything that's going on, that way it can be, not just the journalists, but even the layman, such as myself, and the lay person like you, we can watch it we can absorb the information without having to have a narrative. So I do agree. And I'll tell you what, also big ups to StreamYard, man. I mean, I'd have to go back and re-listen, but I don't think I've had any technical difficulties today at all, which is amazing. Everything has run pretty smoothly. Likewise, I do appreciate it. I appreciate all of you guys, whether you agree with me, disagree with me. If you're respectful, I'll be respectful to you. Sometimes I can be a little ornery. Don't take it personally. If that's the case, it's just who I am. But as long as you're respectful, that works for me. So anyways, guys, ladies, everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. I do appreciate it. It makes it worthwhile to do it. And I will catch your ass down the road. See you next time.